Welcome everyone, this is Brad with Engadget, and we are showing off a phone that we know a lot of people have been waiting for here in the US. It is the Samsung Epic 4G Touch. Now, it's quite possible that this particular phone is not exactly what everyone has been waiting for, but it's the fact that it's a Galaxy S2. Of course, it's got the Galaxy S2 branding on there with the Sprint logo, so as you can tell, this is subsidized on an American carrier. And that is the reason why a lot of people are excited, is because finally, after months and months being overseas, millions and millions of people buying this thing and just absolutely loving it, now it's time for the US to start getting them as a subsidized phone. Now, granted, you have been able to have the Galaxy S2 for, say, $600 or more, if you really wanted it. However, a lot of people who just would absolutely love to have the best phone out on the market today, but don't want to pay over $600 for the unlocked version, are absolutely going to love this one. Now, what we're going to do in our review is we're going to actually take a look through it and put it through its paces. What we want to see is if it's going to get the same raving review that the original Galaxy S2 got in our first go-around. If you've had the chance to look at a review of the Galaxy S2 and are now checking out this review of the Epic 4G Touch, chances are you're seeing some glaringly obvious differences. So what we'll do is we'll talk about these and even some of the minor changes so you get an idea of how this is actually different from the original Galaxy S2. Now, first and foremost, it's a 4.5-inch display versus 4.3 on the original. Still the same pixel resolution, 800 by 480. It's still a Super AMOLED Plus. It's still WVGA, but the difference is that it has lower pixel density now because it's a larger screen, and thus more real estate to pack the same amount of pixels in. Granted, if you're not sitting side by side with the two phones, judging the difference between the two, then it's probably not enough to make a huge difference to you. For me, I'm still looking at this thing, not having the Galaxy S2 around me at the moment to make these judgments. It's still an absolutely gorgeous display. It still beats many of the QHD or other HD resolution screens that you'll find nowadays, even with its lower resolution. That's a crazy thought, but we'll go more into why that is the case and why the display technology does make a bit of a difference here in making the colors brighter and deeper. But aside from that, going down to the bottom here, we have 4 capacitive touchscreen buttons. On the original Galaxy S2, there's 3 buttons, 2 of which are capacitive. You have one for the menu and one for the back. The middle button is the home button, and search is nowhere to be found. Really, on the original, you just need to rely on going into the app itself and pulling up the search option. Many times you can hit menu and there's the search option in there if you can't find it anywhere in the user interface itself. Now, I do happen to enjoy having the search button on there. It's quite nice. Not everyone loves it, and I understand that. I get that. For me, it's great because you hold it down and it takes you straight into voice activation. There's other ways to get into voice activation, don't get me wrong, but for me it's just handy to have that. No matter where I'm at, I can just hold on to that and do voice talk. This is great, of course, for being in the car or being lazy, and it just happens to be that I'm a little bit of both a lot of the time, so it just comes in handy for me. So that's another big difference between the two. Now, looking at the remainder of the phone, of course you won't find that Sprint logo. That's kind of an obvious one. Also obvious is the difference between this camera setup versus the original. They're both 8 megapixels, both have the LED flash. This one is just up and down versus left and right on the original. Now, also at the bottom, on the original, the speaker grill is actually on the right hand side and the mic is on the left. This is reversed here on the Epic 4G Touch. And a really minor difference that may not make a huge enough difference to you is just the placement of the power or screen lock button. Normally on the original you would find it further down here, but on the Epic 4G it's certainly a lot higher up, closer to the corner. Frankly, I prefer that. I like having it so, since I always have the phone in my left hand. It's just natural to click it right there and be done with it. Aside from that, let's do a little bit more of a tour here. Of course, we have the 2 megapixel frontward facing camera, 3.5mm jack for headphones, the volume rocker, and the micro USB port on the bottom there for your charging needs. You take off the back, and this one's a little bit different too because you have the micro SD here and no SIM card. On the original, of course, being a GSM device, you have the SIM card, boom, right there. The micro SD actually just went right there, but you had to you just had a different placement there. Also, one thing I always love pointing out is that the Epic 4G Touch still has the same textured back as the original, and you can make the really cool noises still. Just shows you how easily amused I am. It's sickening, really. The other thing that I noticed that was slightly different is on many of the Galaxy S series phones, you may notice a little trap door, or a sliding door rather, that helps keep the dirt and dust and moisture out and all that fun stuff when you're not charging it. So that's noticeably missing on this one here. Not sure if it's going to be missing on all of them, but that's definitely one thing that's worth pointing out. I did enjoy having the sliding door personally, so I'm kind of sad to see it go, but minor frustrations, if you can even call it that. So for what it's worth, it's definitely something worth pointing out. Now let's do some comparisons. Of course, we have the Epic 4G Touch here. Well, let's show it side by side with a few other devices. So here is the G2X with T-Mobile. Now, G2X has a higher resolution than the Galaxy S2. But let's take a look at something. I want to make sure that we're on the highest brightness here. That we are there. Display. Oh, there. There we go. Okay, so now let's go into the internet. So this one we already had set up here. And what I'm doing here is I'm just doing a comparison of how the two different displays look. Now this is of course both at the highest possible brightness, and as you can see it's much clearer on the right. Now obviously the one on the left, the G2X, is not too bad. But looking at the Epic 4G Touch here, that is significantly brighter just by doing a side-by-side comparison here. So that's just one thing about the display that I always like pointing out. Now let's go through and we can do a side-by-side comparison here. The Epic 4G Touch is roughly around 9.5 millimeters thin. G2X, you are looking at about 811. So there's that. Then you've got another Sprint phone that is very popular right now, and that's the Evo 3D. Side by side, the Evo 3D is 12 millimeters. And of course we have the 4.3-inch screen versus 4.5. Oh, and that was a lovely picture of me. Sorry to traumatize you like that. Okay. Now of course the G2X that we were just checking out was a 4-inch. So just get an overall side-by-side comparison for 4.3, 4.5. And there you have it, folks. That is the Epic 4G Touch from Samsung. It is a Sprint version of the Galaxy S2. And we hope you have enjoyed the overview. If you have, then definitely feel free to check us out on our website. We've got the full review up at Engadget.com. Once again, I am Brad Molman with Engadget, and very happy to do this video review for you. Thank you so much for checking it out.